Bartolomé de las Casas, a name synonymous with the defense of indigenous rights in the Americas, lived a long and tumultuous life, shaped by the brutal realities of Spanish colonization and his unwavering commitment to justice for the native peoples. Born in Seville, Spain, around 1484, his early life offered little indication of the profound impact he would have on the course of history. His father, Pedro de las Casas, was a merchant who accompanied Christopher Columbus on his second voyage to the New World, and Bartolomé himself would later follow in his footsteps, albeit with drastically different convictions. In 1502, at the age of 18, Bartolomé embarked on his own journey to Hispaniola, present-day Dominican Republic and Haiti, a land already ravaged by European conquest and exploitation. Initially, like many other Spanish colonists, he participated in the system of encomienda, a form of forced labor where indigenous people were assigned to Spanish colonists who were expected to provide them with protection and Christian instruction, a system that quickly devolved into outright slavery and abuse. He amassed a plantation and acquired indigenous laborers, participating in the very system he would later condemn. However, a pivotal event in 1514 sparked a profound transformation in his thinking. Witnessing the horrific massacre of a Taino village by Spanish soldiers for resisting their demands for labor. This horrific scene shattered his preconceived notions and ignited a deep sense of moral outrage, compelling him to question the legitimacy of Spanish colonialism and the treatment of the indigenous population. He renounced his encomienda and returned to Spain, where he began a lifelong campaign to expose the injustices and advocate for the rights of the indigenous peoples of the Americas. His early writings, such as 12 Proposals, 1516, were attempts to reform the system and mitigate its most egregious abuses. However, these initial efforts proved insufficient, and he increasingly recognized that fundamental change required dismantling the very foundations of the colonial system. His most influential work, a short account of the destruction of the Indies, published in 1552, offered a devastating indictment of Spanish atrocities and became a powerful weapon in his crusade against colonialism. The book detailed the widespread slaughter, enslavement, and cultural destruction inflicted upon the indigenous populations by Spanish conquistadors and colonists, providing harrowing accounts of violence and injustice. While undeniably powerful, the work was not without controversy. Its graphic descriptions and accusatory tone drew criticism from both Spanish officials and colonists who sought to defend the colonial enterprise. Las Casas' advocacy extended beyond writing. He tirelessly lobbied the Spanish crown and the Council of the Indies, seeking royal decrees and papal bulls to protect indigenous rights. His efforts culminated in the laws of Burgos, 1512, which attempted to regulate the treatment of indigenous peoples, although they were largely ineffective in practice. He famously challenged the legitimacy of the Requerimiento, a document read to indigenous peoples before conquest, declaring their obligation to submit to Spanish rule and Christianity, arguing it was unfair and impossible for them to understand and accept under duress. Las Casas vehemently opposed the forced conversion of indigenous peoples, advocating for voluntary acceptance and criticizing the use of coercion and violence to spread Christianity. He famously proposed a strategy of settling the Americas with Africans brought through the slave trade, a proposal he later deeply regretted and attempted to retract. This regrettable suggestion, born from a desire to alleviate the suffering of the indigenous population by replacing them as the labor force, demonstrated a flawed understanding of the interconnectedness of oppression and the inherent evils of slavery. He established a Dominican mission in Cumacao, Venezuela, a refuge for runaway slaves and a center for evangelization among both indigenous peoples and Africans. Las Casas traveled extensively throughout the Americas, witnessing firsthand the devastating impact of Spanish colonization and documenting the suffering of the indigenous population. He faced constant opposition from powerful interests in Spain who profited from the exploitation of the Americas, and he endured personal attacks and accusations of being a troublemaker and an enemy of the crown. Despite the challenges, Las Casas remained steadfast in his commitment to justice and continued his advocacy for indigenous rights until his death. He died in Madrid in 1566, at the age of 82, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most important defenders of indigenous rights in the history of the Americas. His writings and activism helped to shape early debates about colonialism, slavery, and the rights of indigenous peoples, inspiring subsequent generations of reformers and activists. Las Casas' unwavering dedication to the principles of justice and human dignity remains a powerful reminder of the importance of speaking out against oppression and advocating for the rights of the marginalized. His impact extended beyond his own time, influencing thinkers like John Locke and shaping the development of concepts of natural rights and humanitarianism. He is often considered one of the first proponents of international law, arguing for the inherent rights of all human beings, regardless of their ethnicity or location. The legacy of Bartolomé de las Casas served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of challenging systems of injustice. His life and work continued to inspire movements for social justice and human rights around the world. The complexities of his proposals, particularly his initial support for African labor, demonstrate the challenges of confronting deeply ingrained prejudices and the ongoing need for critical self-reflection.